first question, one thing about your week. I've been racking my brains about this one for several days. I simply do not have anything to tell you about my week. So please feel free to dominate this section, because I've had a normal week with nothing exceptional to tell you about. If there was one thing I could tell you about, I've had an outbreak of box set-itis.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
It's a new day. Gotta take it on my way.
Well, good morning, Judith. How are you?
I'm all right, babe. How are you?
Oh, house full of builders still, trying to open windows right in the middle of webinars and sand doors. I've just gone out and given them a stern talking to. I've said the next hour is sacrosanct.
Okay.
So tell us about your week.
What's taking them so long, darling?
The rain is taking them so long. It's an outdoor decorating job. But Judith, God, you wait till you see my front door. It's
supposed to be pink. It's supposed to be pink. Yes, it is pink now. Last week it was black, or the week before it was black.
It went puce in between. It went the colour, and I quote Steve on this, the colour of old ladies' underwear.
About which he knows precisely zero, fortunately.
Exactly. But no, I made him open the tin today before he started. Oh my God, it's such a gorgeous pink, I can't tell you.
Good. What made you decide on having pink then?
Well, because it was, basically I wanted something that went with next doors. And I'm not great on interior design, so I just went straight to the pink section, held it up against next doors, and plonked my finger on the one that looked best.
What colour is next doors?
Sort of pale blue, but quite a nice blue, like a baby blue.
Okay.
So I'm going for quite a strong yet subtle pink next to it.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, she's very cool. My neighbour next door. She does lots of lovely colours on her front door. But it has been challenging. They were drilling and sanding and banging through I've done a day and a half boot camp, Facebook ads boot camp. Monday and today. Monday and yesterday. And you forget how much you know. I've launched into what my week was all about because I just did. So
I'm glad you have, actually, because this first question, one thing about your week. I've been racking my brains about this one for several days. I simply do not have anything to tell you about my week. So please feel free to dominate this section, because I've had a normal week with nothing exceptional to tell you about.
And you haven't been to any movies or anything, or watched anything on telly?
I have, but I'm saving that for later in the thing. And if there was one thing I could tell you about, I've had an outbreak of box set-itis.
Okay.
I found a new box set I've never seen before, and I'm so excited about it. But I don't want to spoil that, because I'm going to tell you about that later.
Well, remind me, because I've got a recommendation from Steve for you as well.
Good.
Okay, so you forget how much you know. That's the theme of this, and attitudes and language. Because I did a day and a half boot camp with someone, a very high profile coaches, very high profile clients. The top end clients, and there were 42 of them registered. I was a little taken aback by that, but luckily only about 20 turned up live. And we had a few techie challenges, as you always do with GoToWebinar. My internet would drop for a minute or two, and they wouldn't catch a word. Their internets were labouring under the weight, and but it all went very well. We did it in sort of hour-long segments, and it was a learning session followed by an action and Q&A session. Then a learning session followed by an action and Q&A session. So the idea was that they would do the bit I'd just shown them. And I was recording it all, obviously, for the people who couldn't make it. But the language and the attitudes were hilarious. First of all, it started actually at the weekend when people started friending me up on Facebook. And I thought, oh, that's nice, And then you say yes. And then next thing you know, they're on to you at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night asking you questions about the homework that they've been given. And then you've got all the people who go, this was a good one. I had to really tick this one off. oh, software never works for me, computers never work for me, it's just hopeless, it's never going to work.
Why did she sign up to come to an online boot camp then?
Well, I said to her, you're a coach, you can't use language like that.
No.
I said it's a self-fulfilling prophecy if you tell yourself
Yeah.
something like that. I said it's permanent. It needs to be permanent, positive, and personal. And you're just breaking all the rules there. So sort that one out. And the other one was there was a lady who was very angry sounding all the time. I mean, you know, I think I got one around in the end, but she just sounded so angry and curt and clippy all the time. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So you know, it was just very interesting to come across. There were some lovely people that I knew already. Our mutual friend Yvonne Halling was on there. Thank God for Yvonne.
Oh, yes.
She kept me sane, I tell you.
Yeah, she's nice, isn't she? She's lovely.
Yeah, not only nice, but a very can-do attitude. Realises that sometimes software can go wrong. Knows that she might occasionally have to contact support. You know, just really down to earth, level-headed. Yvonne, if you're listening, I thank you.
She's quite a big cheese with Infusionsoft as well, isn't she?
Well, I don't know, but she's obviously
yes, she's one of their star people.
Oh, is she? Excellent. Well, she was a godsend on these calls, and she was there at every session. And I actually ended up doing an extra sort of 2 hours Q&A at the end, and Yvonne was the main reason because she had some questions she needed answering, and I didn't want to leave her dangling. So, yeah, but overall, it was a very enjoyable experience. I don't think I've ever been so very well paid not to go out of my dining room in my life.
So let me ask a question. Were you white labelled, or were you somebody's guest expert, or how was it framed to the clients?
Very generously framed. I was told it was sort of a white label thing in that they were bringing me in to be the expert on this particular topic to their high level clients within the coaching program. But the person concerned, who was no, I won't say. The person concerned was very generous indeed. You know, we struck a lovely deal where she said, okay, so if you get any clients out of this, can you give them a bit of a discount because they're with me? I said, absolutely. And she actually gave up some of, you know, because normally I'd pay X amount commission. She actually gave up half of her commission so that people could have a discount, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And she said, you know, I said, do you want all my slides branded your thing, or do you mind if I have my own slides, if I use slides? And she said, no, brand it your thing if you like. She was just completely generous and abundant and efficient to work with. You know, she had a techie VA who contacted me to see if I needed any technical help. It was just a joy, really, the whole thing. But I just found it so interesting about the language that some of these coaches were using.
I love making observations like that and learning from, noticing that and learning from that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you know, I didn't, and I, you know, I was quite proud of myself that I didn't sort of let them get away with it. You know, I sort of, I threw in a bit of coaching in amongst the tech.
Yes. Yes. Well done, you. Well done.
So what's fueled your fire this week?
Well, same as yours. We're going to share some of these reviews we've had, aren't we?
I found 33 reviews on the American site, and I was nearly, well, I was so excited, I can't tell you. So go ahead.
So shall I? Yeah. I'll read some of them to you, shall I? Okay. This one is from somebody called DarrenMonroe.com. I expect you know Darren Monroe.
I don't know.
Oh, right. Monroe. Very funny and unique and makes me laugh. Very conversational, and I like the production quality. I think you're a bit hard on yourself about that. Plus, your music choices rock, as well as OMG, Uptown Funk, lol. I liked his. The hosts have incredible chemistry, great discussion of online marketing, and X Factor updates. How could you go wrong?
I love the X Factor updates.
And this one from somebody called Sun Devil. I like the idea of Sun Devil. Nicola and Judith have created a conversational podcast with a wealth of information for entrepreneurs, easy to listen to and easy to apply to your professional life. Own It is a show with an excellent takeaway from each episode. Do check it out. That's rather nice.
Nice, yeah.
And shall I go on, or have you had enough?
A couple more.
Couple more. Okay, let me have a look.
I just say 3, but I can stand 5.
This show is awesome because it's so easy to listen to and the information is so spot on. Keep up the great work, ladies. There's a lot of talk about you and I bantering, and everybody seems to like banter, which is quite good. That's a word my nephew uses.
Yeah.
Love the chemistry between the hosts. A very entertaining way to get great information, and I really like your intro music.
Oh, very good. Yeah, the intro music's very popular, isn't it?
It is, and also what people like. There's a lovely one here somewhere. I'll probably read it next week, which it says, it's nice to have two people chatting, not a sort of serious, formatted two white men, basically.
Oh, good.
That's
There
what it says.
was only one mention of Kim and Aggie, wasn't there?
I decided I wouldn't read that you and I were like Kim and Aggie, although now you've brought it up, I will. Such a refreshing take on the classic arrangement. The two hosts really provide a welcome break. Here we go. This is the same one. The two hosts really provide a welcome break from the deluge of corny white guys who dominate most discussion podcasts. I am also slightly reminded of Kim and Aggie from British TV in that the two hosts clearly have a rapport with one another, but also discuss the topics in a light-hearted way with a bit of cheek. So I've never seen Kim and Aggie. I know who they are, but I don't want to decide which one of us is Kim and which one is Aggie.
Oh, I'm the one who drinks too much, obviously.
I didn't know one of them did drink too much. Is that the little?
Yeah,
Is that the little one?
I don't know what it was.
Oh,
But
I was gonna
it was
say.
a bit like watching Floyd. You knew he would be turning to a drink within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Floyd had a bit of a problem, frankly.
Well, I think Kim or Aggie did, whichever one it was. But and it just made for a very entertaining show, I can tell you.
I don't think Floyd would get away with it in 2015. I think we live in more puritanical times.
Well, you've obviously never watched Rick Stein and his producer weaving their way down through France on a longboat.
I have. That's a slightly different thing, though, isn't it? Because Floyd was presenting to camera in a way. I mean, Graham Norton drinks on his chat show, and I think that's quite a delicate balance. If I have a glass of wine, all my judgment goes out the window.
Yeah, well, most people's judgment goes out the window. It's half the problem, isn't it? And half the allure, indeed.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think you've probably got to grease up a chat show guest a bit. I always think it's quite interesting to see what the guests on Graham Norton choose to drink, actually.
Yeah, whether they choose something non-alcoholic, indeed.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of virtuous green tea and water that goes on, but the fun guys always have a glass of champagne or a vodka and tonic or something.
Or tequila slammers. When they're setting it slammers, you know that it's going to be a good show.
Anything else fueled your fire over and above the nice reviews?
Yes. Well, we're Patreon. I tell you how I came across it. It's a website where people can crowdfund creative endeavours, and it's not like the whole thing of you have to get to a certain amount of money or you don't get the cash. It's for people who want to be a patron of the arts, and I loved it. I came across it. I'll tell you who does it. It's Bootstrap for Kids. One of my absolute favourite podcasts now, and I was listening to it and I thought, do you know what? I would actually go and support them because I don't want them to stop. I love it so much. And they were saying, it costs, I don't know, X amount a week to put it out. And I suddenly thought, I want some of Judith's people could do that. Get some of their biggest fans to support them. Even $10 a month would.
Yep.
It mounts up, and it would just take there are people on that site who are making records, who are painting, who are producing pottery, who are producing podcast shows. I just thought perfect. And then I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, we could do it for us. Because
Nick, can I give you some homework?
Yeah.
I think you should work out and let me know, possibly let the listeners know, what it costs us to put this on each week.
Well, it doesn't cost so much now because I do the editing and my VA, Patricia, does the tech.
But there's a Patricia cost. There are other costs.
Minuscule.
And I know you're a bit inclined to say, it's only a few dollars here and there, but I think we should make that our first target.
I think it can't cost us more than $100 a month.
A month?
Because I'm doing the editing.
Well, then let's make that our first target.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Because yeah. And you know what I'd love to do, Judith? I'd love to have a bit of a budget to promote it on Facebook. I've been doing.
And what would that cost, Nicola?
Well, $200 a month, something like that.
So we're up to $300 a month now. So our first target from Patreon.com is $300 a month. So if we get 30 people to pay us $10 a month, we'd be paying our way.
That would be brilliant, and also we'd be growing the listenership because although we are growing the listenership steadily, it's a little slower than you or I would like.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? I was looking at the stats the other day, and I was thinking, Do you know, Judith, at least every single day, at least 10 people download and listen to this podcast. That's astonishing when you think about it. Sometimes it's 100 people. When we put out a new episode, it jumps to 100 people. But every single day, at least 10 people, and often more, are listening to us talking. That's amazing.
Well, I've mentioned this to you before off air, but it's worth mentioning on air, I think. I've had a realization about the value of the podcast for me, which is a lot of my clients listen to it. And Kath, who's one of our new listeners, said, I know you so much better now I've listened to some episodes of the podcast. And I think that one of the unexpected benefits for me of doing this with you is that there's a consolidation of the work I do with my clients, for my clients, and for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, especially in the client challenge section. I mean, I've been getting all of it. I've been getting all of the client challenges transcribed, and I'm very happy to share that with you. And I've also been getting Word of the Week transcribed and put into my membership area. So it's constantly creating content for my membership site, which is a massive benefit for me, as well as having a right old laugh, obviously. So
I mean, I think we should consider turning the client challenges of the week into a book.
Yeah, I totally think that. Yes, I'd love to do that. If you go to ownitthepodcast.com and click the link that says support the show, there's an option. I haven't quite finished the options yet because all the options I put up aren't showing. But there's, you can take it from $1 a month. Or $10 a month or $100 a month. There's a couple of.
Well, there you go. 300 people paying us $1 a month would be great as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And I've actually gone and sponsored the other show for $100 a month because for $100 a month you get a shout out on the show regularly. So I thought that's a very cheap sponsorship option of getting me in front of a very what's the word I'm looking for, product market fit crowd, because all the startup people listen to that show, and if they shout me out regularly, then I'm bound to get some business out of it. But
on a similar topic, Alice, who's one of our podcast listeners, sent us all over the weekend to a website called unbound.co.uk, where there's a video of her mother who's writing a book. And Unbound is a place where you can pledge money so that authors can get their books written.
Oh, okay.
And I want to tell you this story for two reasons, actually. One is that it exists. So people will pay you to write your book, which is something worth knowing about for writers, unbound.co.uk. But once I joined Unbound sent me an email saying, Dear Judith, can we ask why you registered at our website? And I said it was so I could sponsor Alice's mother's book. And the answer came back, and here's £5 for you to use next time you want to sponsor something.
No, that's nice.
Yeah.
God,
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We're very responsive. So as a new person, we've talked about this before, as a new person signs up at your website, you send them one question, and when they answer it, which helps you with your market research, they then send you a gift.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out. Unbound. It's going to go in the show notes, presumably.
It's unbound.co.uk, interestingly. I don't know whether it has a global version, but in a way that's more useful for us, isn't it?
Well, I've got, as you know, I want to write my autobiography. I'm not sure if anyone will pay me to do it. I know of quite a few people who pay me not to do it.
Well, darling, they might. The Unbound might. That's the point.
Yeah. There you go. So Patreon is the website I'm talking about, which is Patreon. They obviously couldn't get patreon.com. But if you want to support the podcast, go to support the show link on our website. But yeah, really got me going, that did. I was very inspired by the fact. I immediately thought of lots of your clients who are doing creative endeavours.
Well, I've shared it widely. I'm not sure anybody's seen the value in it for them yet, but I think I can talk them round, because I think, a bit like us, a few people paying you a few dollars would get the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. And the boys on Bootstrap with Kids have a bit of a laugh about it. They say, someone's given us, £10. It's a coffee each, and it'll keep us going through the show this week. So
yeah,
it's all good. But first, a word from our sponsors. This podcast is sponsored by clicksandleads.com. Clicksandleads.com believe in affordable traffic and leads for everyone. They'll set up your Facebook ad campaign, page likes, leads or remarketing, then they'll manage it for you. They'll even split test your ads and audiences to find the best performing ones. $20 a day minimum ad spend. Game-changing marketing from clicksandleads.com. Affordable managed traffic and leads for everyone. You can devote yourself to business, not marketing. clicksandleads.com. What's our client challenge of the week then?
Well, it's not a challenge. I thought we'd have a debate about something this week. In fact, it's such an interesting topic. I nearly flagged it to you in advance so you could have a think about it. I know you like the spur of the moment when I bring something up and you didn't know what it was in advance, but I nearly thought of warning you about this one. I thought we would talk about risk.
You talk about risk to me?
Specifically, what's risky about self-employment? What's risky about running your own business? Real risks versus imagined risks. Risk is a topic that I find absolutely fascinating, and I can remember once driving to meet you and Steve in a meeting in a hotel somewhere. It was a very hot day, and I was reading this book about risk while I was waiting for you, and I didn't want to put it down, and I remember leaving it open on the dashboard of the car at the page that I was at, and it was such a hot day that when I came back all the spine glue had melted and all the pages had dropped out. But let me give you a lead in to where I'm coming from with this. What I read about in that book is that human beings are very poor assessors of what's a risky activity. For instance, probably the most dangerous thing we can do is drive a car. And we're terrified that and we don't think of that, we just do it every day. We're terrified we're going to die of cancer, but actually diabetes is far more likely to get us. So we're frightened of the wrong things. And after 9/11, the Americans stopped flying between states because they thought flying was dangerous. You can imagine feeling that, can't you? Yeah. Having watched those planes. Well, first of all, they grounded all the planes for a week, but everybody was scared, like you are when something awful happens, like when you're burgled, you feel preyed upon, you feel victimised. They didn't fly for a while, so they all drove from one state to another instead, and many, many more of them died in road accidents than would have done had they gone on the planes. What this book taught me is that we're all frightened of the wrong things because we have no idea how to assess risk. So the people that we work with are fearful, by and large, about, what will happen if I do this? What will happen if I don't do this? Is leaving my day job a risky thing? Whereas I know you and I both believe that actually a day job is the riskiest thing you can do. What risks do people fantasize about? And actually an exercise I sometimes do with my clients is, what's the worst case scenario? And when we go into it and dig deep down into it, the worst case scenario is that we could end up sleeping on somebody's settee. And when they boot us out, we'll end up in a cardboard box. Now, I don't know anybody that's happened to. So we've got this sort of fear, this dread of things which, are not going to happen. So I just thought we'd talk about risk, any aspect of it that comes to mind that you have an opinion on for yourself or you've observed in other people.
Well, I've got a very, very high risk tolerance. I found that out when I had a meeting with a pensions advisor at the tender age of 19. He said, "My word," he said, "you have got a very high tolerance to risk." I said, "Yeah, I have." Yeah. Because I find it exciting. Yes. Having said that, we drove last night to drop my son off in the country, and then we went for dinner at a beautiful country pub, and it was such a scary experience. I'm not joking. I was going around these dark country roads at about 30 miles an hour. Several people overtook me, including a horse and cart, apparently, and someone on a bicycle. That's a lie, of course, but they could have done. Because I just felt so terrified about driving along in the dark around these windy roads. And then, the thing is, I used to be more scared about flying. You'd think I'd be a bit more scared about it with all these bombs going off in planes over Russia. But I definitely got braver when I went to America last year. I don't know why that was an unexpected side effect benefit. I don't understand, because we didn't do anything about bravery at all. But I am quite a fearful person. I'm astonished, actually, looking back over my life, how fearful I've been. And I think it must have come from the fact that my mother disappeared when I was 6 or 7 and nobody mentioned where she'd gone for 2 years. And so I got a sense that life was impermanent, I think, then. But that's not what we're talking about, is it? Risk is different to fear.
It is actually, although they're close cousins, aren't they? So actually, I think we should start with exploring the things that we're fearful about. For instance, I'm quite fearful of, and consequently have never done any extremely physical sports like skiing. Because I'm frightened of breaking an arm or a leg.
Yeah. And
I don't do those plank breaking exercises at events, or those ones where you stick the arrow through your throat. I don't do any. I'm a physical coward.
Yes.
In fact, when people tell me stories about, falling over, I can actually feel it in my own body.
Yeah, you're highly empathetic.
Well, I just feel, don't stop it, I can feel it. I don't like things like that. I'm quite a brave person, very brave person in a business sense, and I'm a high risk taker, but I'm fearful of a collection of things which is different from your collection of things. I'm not frightened of spiders, for instance. I know you are. I'm not frightened of driving. By the way, when it comes to risk assessments, country lane driving is very risky. Not at night because of the lights. The lights should have helped you in the country lanes logically.
What lights?
Because you can see when you're driving in the country lane with your car lights on, you can see the oncoming car coming towards you. In the daylight, you can't see that. You what?
It blinds you, the oncoming lights.
Well, not if you both manage your lights. The practice, they're there. In the daytime, you don't know people are coming at you in country lanes because you haven't got that clue, and they are very dangerous. So you're right to be anxious of that, or just hyper aware when you're driving it, I think.
Yeah. And whereas I consider it a very risky activity to go to bed without putting the plug hole down on the bath.
Yes, I see what you mean. Now, so our fears are not really very real, are they? We're frightened of the wrong things, but I tell you what. Let's have a think about this. If any risks that you've ever taken in business failed, damaged you?
Well, I don't know if they've damaged me. No, I wouldn't say so because I'm not someone who regrets things. But when I look back to the day when I sat in the garden with my best friend Kim and said, do you think I'm making a big mistake buying this hotel? £500,000, no money down. And she said, yeah, it's pretty risky. I don't think I'd do it. And then she said the classic line, which is why we've been friends for 35 years. Yeah, go on, it'll be a laugh though. So we have a little bit of a history of taking risks in our friendship. But I wish
the acacia turned out all right. That risk turned out all right.
Oh, I don't know about that, Judith. Oh, when I look back, I still dream about the acacia in several different ways. I mean, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know, I started on the road of personal development. I started getting a coach and I started reading the books and believing them. And I read a book called Rags to Riches Through Real Estate by Russ Whitney. And he talked about buying property no money down. And instead of going out and buying a series of little one-bedroom flats, I went and bought a £500,000 hotel, no money down, did it up in 12 weeks and launched it on the unsuspecting public. And it went very well for 2 years, but then I got bored. And I wanted...
Well, no, hang on a minute, stop there. I was going to say the only thing that went wrong with that was that you got bored. So actually, if that had been your life's work, it would have gone from strength to strength from that point.
Very true. If I devoted myself entirely to it. But I was also running a very successful coaching business called the Money Gym.
I know that, but the point is the risk of buying the hotel paid off.
Well, and also it really enhanced the Money Gym. I mean, I was just doing wealth coaching under Nicola Cairncross, and I never forget when I launched the Money Gym and said you can come and stay in the hotel 4 times a year. It was a brilliant idea by my accountant. We won't go into right now, but it enhanced my wealth creation status enormously because I bought the hotel, and I had somewhere to host my own workshops. But I still have 2 types of dream about it. I dream that I go back and I make it work, or I go back and I'm trying to make it work. And I have dreams where I go back and I think they're panic dreams. I go up into the attic and there are ghosts up there, and I go to certain parts of the hotel and I can't breathe and I can't move and my legs won't work and all that stuff. So it's had quite a lasting effect on me, that one.
Yeah. But it wasn't. So it was a risky strategy, and it wasn't a wrong one.
It totally wasn't a wrong one. It was right in so many different ways. I mean, I wouldn't have met Steve because he wouldn't have come to work for me. I wouldn't have met you because you wouldn't have come to stay at the hotel. You can't regret things in retrospect, but it was a high risk thing. Every property risky thing has always worked out in the end. We bought a property in London. We ended up doubling in value. Property's always.
Well, could you say that the purchase of property in the UK is ever a risky strategy?
Well, I think going into it with no money of your own in was probably a bit more high risk than normal because I had enormous monthly outgoing I then had to service. But no, I think generally speaking, buying residential property is one of the least risky things you can do.
Well, let's go into that. Let's imagine you bought you went into buying a property in the UK in a high risk way, i.e., without much of a deposit.
Yeah.
And it goes wrong and you lose it. How bad is that actually?
No, it's not that bad.
No.
It doesn't take life at all, does it? Really?
Yeah, no, it doesn't really. It's a disappointment. It's a shame.
Yeah.
But how bad is it?
Well, one of the things people worry about is the risk of going bankrupt, isn't it? And I've been there, and it doesn't change your life that much.
Well, interestingly, we worry more about it in the UK than our US listeners will, because it's very normal in America for successful people to have gone bankrupt at least once on their way to riches.
So they're a lot more ready to make people bankrupt in America than they are in the UK. They'll avoid it like the plague in the UK if they can.
Yeah.
Or creditors, they'll try not to make you bankrupt, but some of them do.
Yes.
Like the tax and the rates. They're particularly bad at it. But no, I mean, you've got to think, like you say, I love that thing, the worst that can happen. I mean, I'll never forget when I was so sick with worry at the end of the days of the occasion when I was trying to sell it, and it was quite a tricky manoeuvre. I went for lunch with this guy just last week, funnily enough, and I was saying to him, you saved my sanity, because he said to me, do you owe any mobsters money? And I said no. And he said, do you owe any loan sharks money? I said no. He said, well, you don't need to worry then, because everyone else knocks off at 5 o'clock on a Friday night, so take the weekend off and don't worry about it.
Yeah, in fact, several clients reach out to me when they're very worried about money, and of course one of the risks of self-employment or running your own business is that you might run out of money, and that happens quite often where we all come to the brink where we think we haven't got enough and we go into scarcity. But quite a lot of clients talk to me when they're worried about not being able to repay money that they've borrowed. And I always say to them, that's not really a problem for you. It's a problem for the person who lent you the money.
Yeah, that's true. There's lots of ways of shifting your thinking, isn't there? But I do honestly believe that, and I'm drumming this into my children, that having a job with no other source of income on the side is a high risk strategy, because I've been made redundant so many times, even when I've thinking it's been going really, really well.
Well, Nicola, it's a high risk strategy in sheep's clothing because it looks safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It looks safe. And what happens when you lose it through redundancy or any other kind of thing is that you feel awful because it happens to you and you are powerless. You are a victim.
Yeah, and it makes you feel so worthless as well, because you sort of think, well, if they really rated me, they'd keep me on. But, of course, they're just making a financial decision, and it's quite cold-blooded. And they...
That's right. So we both really believe, and we're quite bad people to be having this discussion because we've both got a high risk profile. But a strong message to get across is that self-employment and running your own business is anything but risky, because you're taking responsibility for your own earning into your own hands, and you're never going to fire yourself.
No, and then any extra money that you make, you plough it straight into safe little properties, and then you're pretty much sorted for life after that. Just go wait. Time is the thing that's going to work for you then.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have erred on the side of taking it too far, to be honest, from time to time, and that's going to lead on in a minute to my word of the week. But I wouldn't change it. And once I was playing a cash flow game with some colleagues rather than with some clients, and I like to look in the cash flow game for metaphors for my real life. And what happens often in the cash flow game is that I win on the very last throw of the game, right on the knife edge. And I remember saying once something like, oh, just like real life. And somebody said to me, don't you think that's a mistake that you've made, being too too happy to take extreme out there risks. And certainly there have been months, nay years of regret in some cases about doing that. But I can't seem to stop myself doing it. I don't even want to rein myself in from it, to be honest with you.
Well, it must add a little fillip of excitement to life.
Well, I think it does at the point of entry. It's a bit like marry in haste, repent at leisure, isn't it? But I think it is an exciting word to me.
What, risk?
Risk.
It's a positive word for you.
It's an exciting word, yeah.
Thrilling word. Yeah, thrilling.
Yeah, 'tis a bit, yes.
Interesting.
And I think sometimes what I think of as, what other people might think of as risky, I don't even notice.
It's highly aligned to change for me. So many people are so terrified of change that they won't take a risk because they feel that the thing that they're going to change is going to be changed forever. Whereas actually, if you could just get, taking a risk it might lead to change, but it won't necessarily be permanent change because you can always change your mind again and take another risk.
And it won't necessarily be worse.
No, absolutely, yes. And you'll never know if you don't do it. I mean, all the things that I regret, and they do say that this is one of the things that people say on their deathbeds, all the things I regret are the things that I didn't trust my gut on.
Okay.
So, I can look back on certain things that I think, I'm a little bit regretful there. But I knew what I should have done and I didn't do it, or I knew that I should have forced that one through and I didn't.
But they weren't risks. They weren't risks.
No, I don't regret any of the things I did that were risky, no.
No, quite. I think my point is that the risks that my clients might be fearful of taking aren't risky at all. And the things that they do with ease, like driving a car, they don't really understand how risky they are.
Good point. We're actually the safest people around.
Well, I don't know. I think we're a bit mad, aren't we, in terms of we're a bit inclined to encourage people. I'm a bit inclined to encourage people. I often have to say to clients, listen, this is what I would do, but if I were you, I'd dial it back from that a bit because I'm a bit on the extreme edge of risk taking.
I'd go back to 60% if I were you.
Yes, exactly.
Good. Well, that's interesting. I enjoyed that. Very well done. Word of the week, then.
Okay, so it all begins to slot together now. Hubris is my word of the week.
That's a good word.
I know. It means excessive pride or self-confidence, and sometimes my excessive self-confidence is what leads me into risk-taking.
I don't think of you as an excessively self-confident person. I think of you as a quietly confident person.
It's interesting because I'm not saying I'm a person who is excessively self-confident all the time, but when you have a rush of blood to the head. I woke up with this word earlier in the week, and it's going to get a bit spooky, this story later on, but I woke up and this word was on my mind, hubris. And I thought to myself, yeah, you've been guilty of that from time to time. And it's always a bit of a rush of blood to the head where you're feeling high or good about yourself or on a roll.
Yeah,
or on a roll. It's in that space that I'm a bit inclined to take the risky risks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And thinking back on it, I have had those moments of hubris myself. I'm a lot more chastened and humble nowadays, my lad.
Yeah, I hope I am too. But anyway, tell me about your word of the week.
Well, this is a word, choices. And the reason this word has come about is because I've been devouring everything James Schramko does, as you know. Now, let me just divert for a moment and you talk about the word attention. If you can do this with your blog and your podcast and your business, he has got all my attention right now. He is dominating my attention. It's moved on. Rich Sheffrin is still one of my top gurus of all time, but James has more of my attention right now. So I'm devouring everything he's done. And I came across a fantastic interview he did on his website. Just go and search Simple Choices to Change Your Life. It's the actual blog post is superfastbusiness.com/business/. We'll put it in the show notes.
I'll find it. Yeah, Simple Choices to Change Your Life
with hyphens in between. And it was a really interesting article because podcast episode, and you can get the transcript if you prefer to read. Because as you know, I'm trying to find a way to care more about my fitness. And there is a definite block there. And so I'm always on the lookout for things that might help me shift that block. And he says, now this was interesting, limiting beliefs are the symptom, not the cause. Because as coaches, we bang on about limiting beliefs all the time, don't we? And we assume that the reason people can't do things or don't do the things they want to do is because of their limiting beliefs, i.e. perhaps one of my limiting beliefs is I'm not worth it, or no matter what I do I'm never going to be slim, so I might have all sorts of limiting beliefs. Anyway, this interview with a chap called Seth Ellsworth, who is 6'10", by the way, it says that limiting beliefs are the symptom, not the cause. And he says that it's all about the choices you make about who you are. So you choose who you are in any given moment, and that identity leads to the thoughts that you have, which leads to the beliefs you have, which leads to the actions you take, which leads to the result or the outcome you get. Interestingly, after our conversation about feelings last week and how I admire people who seem so unswayed by their feelings, unbuffeted by a swirling emotion, fog of emotion, he didn't have feelings in that list at all. So I was sitting in bed this morning drinking my coffee trying to think where feelings would go in this. So if you make choices about your identity, so I'm choosing to be a person who is not a fit person, who doesn't look after themselves, and that gives me to have certain thoughts, and we know that thoughts cause feelings. Is it that thoughts cause feelings, or do feelings cause thoughts? I don't know. We need to think about that one a bit more. So my thoughts come from, no, it's definitely feelings. So the identity I'm choosing for myself is giving me certain feelings which lead to certain thoughts, i.e. I'm never going to be thin, and then that leads to a limiting belief that there's absolutely no point in going to the gym because I'm never going to be thin, and that leads to certain actions, which i.e. I don't go to the gym, and that leads to the result that I'm still unfit. And I thought, actually, this little simple interview is actually pretty profound.
So I've missed word of the week here.
Choices.
Okay.
We're all making.
I totally agree with everything you said, and I've already done a group call with my clients this morning, and 2 out of 3 of them, I wanted to say to them, just make a different choice. And I realised that when I say that, it's harder for them than I believe it is, because they've made this decision. It's a bit like clients saying, well, I'm a scanner, or I'm a creator, or I can't do that because I'm a.
Oh, so that's exactly right, isn't it? They're making choices about their identity.
Yeah.
And that leads to certain thoughts and feelings.
Well, they just think it's a fact. It isn't.
No, they can choose to be someone different.
Yes, they can. And you can choose to be someone or something different like that, but we don't think we can. We don't know we can. We don't believe we can. And there are some things, for instance, we choose to make up our minds are difficult.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was really thought-provoking that instead of making choices about what we do, we can go a bit further back and make a choice about who we are.
Who we are.
Yeah.
And actually, you can reinvent that all the time, can't you?
Yeah, on a minute-by-minute basis.
Yeah, quite.
And when you think about transformational change, people who stop drinking, people who stop doing drugs, people who stop smoking, people who suddenly become, like Joe Vitale or someone like that, they chose to be someone different. They chose to be. And that leads into the be, do, have, rather than the have.
Well, I tell you what I think is really interesting about this is that at some level we made those choices also about the things that we believe about ourselves that are good. And so we don't examine those because it works.
Yes.
The opportunity to reinvent yourself is in the area of your lives where you think it's not working.
Yes. So then it leads on to the question of who would I have to be to make a different choice about what I'm going to do?
I think you just need to be the person you are. But what I'm saying is, what I think it's so you have the choice, so do I, so does everybody listening, in this moment to make a different choice about who we are. We can all, I don't think you need to be anybody else to make the choice. I think yourself makes the choice to be another version of you.
My eyes have just rolled back in the backs of my head.
It doesn't matter. We're all getting the point, which is we have a choice, and the things that we've decided to believe about ourselves, our facts, aren't.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Very good.
It's simple, it's profound, and I think it could make a difference.
I definitely agree with you. I will certainly look up that article. I'm interested in reading it myself, and I will share it in the show notes.
Marvellous. What about you then? Are we done yours?
We are. Mine was hubris.
Hubris, yes. Sorry, we often do this when I get really interested. My brain forgets that we've talked about other things. Project updates then.
Well, mine are getting quite exciting this week, actually. I've got 2 or 3 that are moving in the quite exciting phase, but I'm only going to tell you about one because my Lotto one launched last night with its first Lotto, and the winnings have come in today while I've been talking to you. So before the show started, I didn't know whether I'd won anything on last night's Lotto, and during the course of the show, I've discovered that I have. But let me tell you, first of all, that across the summer, we were invited to sign up for free at the pre-launch site.
Yeah, I remember.
And I had something like 35 people, I think, sign up as saying they were interested in joining when it went live. And it went live in the last 10 days or so with the first draw last night. We had to activate our account by choosing to pay either €33 for a month or €66 for a month. And if you brought in 3 friends at either of those levels, which of course I've done, you get your subscription refunded, so you pay for free. But the interesting thing I want to point out before I tell you how much I've won is that the across-the-board conversion rate from people who said they wanted to do it when it was free to those that signed up when they had to pay some money, so across the whole business opportunity, 20% of people converted from non-payers to payers.
Lower, I would have thought. I would have said 50%.
I would like to tell you that mine was closer to 50%.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. I had 30-something, and I've got 15 payers.
Wow, so you outperformed everyone else?
I don't know that I outperformed everybody else. I outperformed the average.
Yeah, well done. That's because you were so...
I'm quite pleased about that. I think it's because I'm excited about this and I believe it's going to work. So last night I played the lottery for free.
Mm.
It's pegged to the Euro Millions numbers.
Yeah.
So the numbers are in the public domain. I played it for free and I've won €3, which isn't terribly exciting. I've played in a syndicate of 49 people, and I can see that in my syndicate, 4 of them had numbers that caused them to win, and they are people that I love. There's one I don't know here. Lauren's one, John's one, and I can't remember who this code name is but 3 of them I know. And my share of their winnings is 50 cent, which I think is what they call it in euros, 50 cent, 50 cent, 50 cent, and €1.50. So my total winnings are €3, which is nothing, of course, but this is also an MLM. So now I know it's working. I bring in more and more people. I get more and more points. On Friday, I go into a draw which is based on my points from the introductions I've made. And each ticket, I've got 13 tickets for that draw. Even if I get no numbers on that, I win €1. So I've won €13 on Friday already. I may even have won more. So my Euro winnings this week, my lottery winnings this week on the Tuesday and the Friday draw will be €16 at no cost to me, and it's only going to get bigger.
Do you know what I'm thinking as I listen to this? I'm thinking, A, it's so complicated, and B, you always used to be someone who was only interested in big money, big chunks of cash.
This is going to become big, because the reason why only 20% of people convert is nobody believes it until they see it.
Yeah.
And now I can sell it because it started to happen.
Yeah, and you can talk with absolute honesty about it.
And also, I've only got 15 people in my team, whereas the capacity is 19,000.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So let's do that. Let's do that, shall we? Let's go. €16 divided by 15 people times 19,000. My winnings could be €20,000 a week, and that's only on the minimum level. If anybody in my team has a big one, I get 5% of it, I think, or something, anyway, whatever. The point is, you win at no cost to yourself, free money.
Yeah. that get
And it's fun. And it's fun.
yeah. Well, I looked at something else you were doing the other day, and you sent me a link to it, and I read it, and by about line 10, I'd lost it. I couldn't understand what they were talking about at all. So
Yeah.
you obviously
I
like.
tell you why. I tell you why. I tell you why it is because one of my gifts is to be able to get what the financial offering is.
Yeah.
And what I can do very quickly is go, oh, I get it. It's great. I get it. It bores me. And the ones that bore me, I drop them straight away. No, because I have lots of friends who call up and talk about the 2%, 2.5% a month you can make on Forex. Well, that's quite a lot of money actually, but frankly, sitting at my computer all day doing Forex bores me. But this, I'm introducing people to the opportunity to make free money. That excites me. I could sell that big. I was just waiting for last night to go live so that I got something to report. I haven't had time, because we're in the podcast, to go and find out what everybody else has made. Once I discover, what the big winners are in here, also it gives me a free ticket to give away every Tuesday and Friday. What a marvel! And also, you'll love this. So when I give away the free ticket, then the system markets to those people until they become payers.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So abundance and generosity and all that.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Lotto might win a big one.
I'm not convinced by the fun aspect of it yet, I have to say, but
It is fun.
Interest.
Yes. Okay. Watch me, because it's going to get more and more fun, because it's going to be exponential.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you do the lottery on a regular basis, so when I went out yesterday, I bought because I was so excited about this, I just bought a Euro Millions ticket.
Yeah.
Well, that cost me £2. It's gone straight in the bin because I won nothing.
Yeah.
On this one, I didn't have to pay anything, and I've won €3. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but you get the principle's exciting. It was free to win 3. The one I won nothing on cost me £2.
Well,
so it's odds. It's odds as well, and it's odds that excite us about profit accumulator a bit.
And it's odds that excite about risk.
Yeah.
Taking risks for small, big reward. Yeah.
Now, the good thing about this, we designed this project updates so that we could report in each week. And this is going to be my one now. It's launched. And I've got today, on the 11th of November, I've got 15 people in my team. Watch me go now this is launched, okay?
Yeah, you're going to be unstoppable, aren't you?
I'm going to go, I am, because do you remember how excited, this is how I came in, how excited I was. Bring in 3 friends and you play for free. Well, that's already better than Camelot.
Yeah. Okay, so, but can you do this without understanding it like you do?
I can make this understandable.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Well, because I definitely could bring in 3 people. Because I
would definitely like to talk to you about this, because it is. I know we can't advertise it on Facebook because they don't like these things, do they?
No, but you could build a list of people who are interested in opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to be careful.
Whatever. We'll come back to it. But tell me about your project update.
Well, I held my ground this week as someone tried to squidge me.
Oh.
Yes. They'd already squidged me quite a lot, I have to say. So it was someone who booked to talk to me. I put out an email saying, if you book to talk to me before the end of September and you sign up for my clicks and leads service, actually I did say in that email within a week, then I will hold my September prices for the next 12 months. And I did that because I wanted to get a rush of clients. And somebody booked in to talk to me. I've got to say, it was their husband in the background doing the negotiating, and they booked in to talk to me, and they said, we definitely want to go ahead, we're confirming we will become a client, but we can't start till end of October, early November. So I said, okay then, and because I liked the project, so I said, okay then. So I've been squidged once there, right? And then it went on a little bit longer, and anyway, they then tried to squidge me for not some of my terms and conditions. And for, I totally don't blame them, because, this is business and we're all out to make ourselves feel comfortable. But I held my ground. So I'm very pleased with myself about that. No squidging beyond
listening to you has made me realise I allowed somebody to squidge me today as well.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think being squidged twice by the same person, or 3 times, is a little bit over-familiar, don't you?
It's testing, isn't it? Because do you remember I had that lady in the summer who asked for 3 things I had to say no to?
Yeah. But
she's now a client, and we get on like a house on fire, but it's testing.
Yeah, and I totally don't blame people for trying to squidge me. I wish I was more of a squidger myself.
Yeah.
This word is going to go into the Oxford English Dictionary at some point.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So who or what's impressed then?
Well, this is it. This is my box set itis. You know how I love films, and you know how I love writing.
Yeah.
And I was watching Claudia's film review program, Film 2015. I was thinking about Film 2015 because I can remember back to watching Barry Norman do it in the 80s.
I love Barry Norman.
It was called Film 1986 or something in those days.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love Claudia. So I was watching Claudia last week. It was the first episode of the series, and they were talking about making the upcoming film of the Steve Jobs book.
Oh, yes.
Which we're all looking forward to. And they were saying that they'd given it to a writer called Aaron Sorkin. I don't know if you've heard of Aaron Sorkin. I have, because he wrote A Few Good Men. He wrote The Social Network, which was the film about Facebook.
Yeah.
He wrote a series that I liked on the television called The Newsroom. And he wrote something that you will have heard of, but I never watched because it was in the decade where I didn't have a television, called The West Wing.
I never watched it, but I've heard it's...
Oh, God, I've been on a box set binge of it this week. It is about, it's set in, well, the decade in which I didn't have a television began in 97, and the first of its series came out in 1999. And it's about people who work for the president.
Yeah.
In the White House, in the West Wing of the White House, and it's about fine people doing fine things. It has soaring music, it has fantastic writing, and it makes me proud to be an American, which you'll have spotted, Nicola. I'm not, actually. I cried in most of the episodes because it's about fine people doing fine things and high morals. Now, it declines a bit in the second series because politics is what it is. But, there are grand sentiments. Now, what's fascinating about it, well, twofold. First of all, as the new president comes to power, as I imagine this happens when you become an MP in the UK, you're all innocent and aspirational of creating great change in the world, and then you're compromised by the cynical system. But the other thing that's interesting to compare, glossing over for the moment the fact that it's riveting telly and fabulous writing, is it's very interesting to compare a programme about politics in the White House in 1999 to the two programmes I watch in 2015, which are also about the White House. One is called Madam Secretary and one is called Scandal, where the President of the United States has a mistress, for heaven's sake, that everybody knows about, which certainly would it's just ridiculous, quite frankly. But the things that obsess both of those programmes now in 2015 wouldn't have made any sense at all in 1999. So it's given me an opportunity to see quite dramatically how the world has changed in 15 years.
Oh, you made me want to go and watch West Wing now because I thought it was just say people fighting amongst themselves behind the scenes.
No, I watched one episode before and I didn't get it because there doesn't seem to be any daylight in the West Wing. They're all in darkness most of the time. But I've try a handful of episodes. You can get it online or you can get it on Netflix or something like that. I think it's fabulous.
I won't, because we're running short of time. I won't go into why I can't watch things online or on Netflix. The complicated arrangement of my visual viewing is not conducive to that, but I will try and work out a way to do it. Okay, so who or what's impressed me, I'll be very brief. It's James Altucher, which I know is a favourite of yours, isn't he?
He is, yes he is, yes. What's he done this week?
Well, I've never been very... I can't listen to his podcast because I find his voice quite abrasive. But I have started reading his book. I can't remember why I ordered them, but I did in a moment of impulse. Choose Yourself, it's called. And
yes.
I'm really, really enjoying it. And then it's got one called Choose Wealth. And for some reason, they've made the writing much, much smaller on that one. So it might take me longer to read that one. But I'm thoroughly enjoying Choose Yourself. And that ties into my word of the week, which was choices. Aha!
Yay! Very good.
So we end on a fanfare of synchronicity and what's the word I'm looking for?
Marvellousness.
Symmetry.
Yes.
A great show. Thank you very much. Well done. See you next week.
Okay. Bye, dog.
Bye. You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.